It really doesn't matter because today that scientific basis is shared. But the knowledge about that scientific basis and the knowledge of how we move on the basis of this common understanding to do the right, to make the implementation possible and realistic is still a big challenge to all of us. So when I think about, well, by the way, I mean today, in an hour or so, 2 hours, in the Norwegian capital of Oslo, in the Oslo City Hall, IPCC and Al Gore will be receiving the Nobel Peace Prize Award. And for me, it is fascinating to think about. We have been celebrating this year the 20 years anniversary of the report that I led in the years between 83 and 87, and which was the basic, our common future, of the Rio Conference, of all that happened in a way from 87, or even while we were working, reaching out to the business community, to the scientific community, to the NGO community, not only to governments, in a way that hadn't been done before by any global body of this nature. And I think that has been an important background. As sometimes journalists say, why did it take 20 years to get to where we are? I sometimes say, look, 20 years is short time in human history. And time has been catching up with us from a scientific background, because the fact that we in the report really made clear the risk of climate change was early on. There was even a discussion inside the Commission whether we had sufficient basis in 1986-87 to refer to that first scientific major meeting of 24 countries in Villach, Austria, saying climate change is plausible. Plausible. I mean, now it is climate change is real. We are already seeing the consequences, and it is only 20 years. But the report made it possible, and you know, when I think of it, 5 years after the report was presented in London in April '87, we had the Rio Conference. And not only did we have the conference decided on Agenda 21, it decided on the Climate Convention and the Biodiversity Convention. Only 5 years after a new, shocking document to most of the world had been presented. You know, we have seldom seen such pace in human history. I sometimes want to remind us and that we can be a little proud of ourselves, not the Commission, but the way the world responded and took seriously the things that were new to nearly everyone when it was presented only 20 years ago. So now in this meeting, as one of you said, there hasn't been any blaming or criticism of each other in this meeting. No, because during the last years, maybe even only the last year or two, the drama has become clear to everyone, and everyone feels there is no more time to do the blame game. And this is, I think, a message also to the delegations, not only to business and thinking about your relationship with governments and how we work together. It's also a message to every delegation that the blame game is not what is going to bring us forward. It is trying to understand where everyone is coming from and trying to find the things that bind those interests together. So Ivo de Boer this morning said, you, the business community, you are the key to a low carbon future. Yes, I think you know you are. But I have also heard all day that you all know that you are dependent upon wise and far-sighted governments that can create a climate deal. Not tomorrow or, launching, yes, but within the next year or two, able to conclude a climate deal that will help you be able to be the key to the low-carbon future. Because without the governments, without that framework, without better answers to many of the questions of barriers that you have identified, we will not be able to move quickly enough forward. So I just also want to share with you something which, to me, is an illustration. Emil Salim was member of my commission. When I put together the commission, this is also unusual. I insisted two things. It was an independent commission, but it still was given its broad framework, a very ambitious one, from the General Assembly, but I was allowed to act like an independent commission could do. No committees in New York or somebody telling us what countries should be on or making a lot of fuss. I was able to insist. So there were two things. Picking the people, because I knew I needed a combined body of people with political experience and people with sufficient scientific background and economists, so that we could analyze the trans-sectional nature of the whole sustainable development concept. We created that word, of course, ourselves after our analysis, but the point is, we needed that kind of combination. The other thing was, I insisted, I'm going to have more than half of the members coming from the developing world. This was back in 1984, early winter months, while I was putting together the commission. And, people hadn't heard about that before. So we had more members from the developing world, including Emil Salim, who still is around as a major figure every time there is a major sustainable development conference, because he has pursued the issue since that time. Today, as the advisor of the president of Indonesia and the leader of the delegation of Indonesia here. He's just one example of the people who were working together. So what did he say today? When we talked about carbon capture and storage, he put on the screen, not a question mark, but saying we need to, continue working on the issue. He didn't define it as something that we should agree to do yet. And when he was provoked or asked by the moderator about the issue, he said, he asked a counter question. What, isn't it, it has a terribly high price level, he said, as far as I understand. And then he secondly said, if we have that kind of money, I know of other areas where you could use that kind of money better, and he used public education as an example. Then someone said, well, nobody knows the price today. Nobody can tell exactly about what carbon capture means and storage, because it hasn't been done yet. It's just on the project table. But then, I think it was Rio Tinto's representative here saying, but there is no reason to believe that it is going to be more costly than other alternative